Hi everyone, this is Sandra Martin with Creative Breathings, and today I am sharing an art journal that's in progress. This is an altered book that I'm using. It's originally was a Pottery Barn, kind of like a lookbook. It gives you ideas for organization, storage, and setting up your office spaces and studios. And I really enjoyed the book, but then instead of getting rid of it, I decided to turn it into a journal because I really like the size of it. I even like this little imprinted detail here once I remove the dust jacket. So I have no idea how I will decorate the outside cover. That's probably the last step for me, but this is something I started probably 3 or 4 years ago actually, and every so often I pull this out of storage and work in it. So this is the inside cover, and I really love the end papers and found them really inspiring, and it's kind of that beautiful sepia tone. And I added little bits of collage and started writing quotes in here. But as we go through this book, you'll see that my intentions for the book shifted. Each time I found the book, I pulled it from my stash. I was in a different frame of mind, and so it just sort of shifted like that. So here's a quote also about curiosity. It says, "Honor your desire for a new life. Say yes to the small inklings of interest and curiosity that present themselves each day." And it's by Lynn A. Robinson. And because it had the word inklings in it, I thought of C.S. Lewis. And as some of you know who maybe have studied his life, he was part of a book club or a writing club with J.R.R. Tolkien and several others, and they would meet at a pub and kind of discuss their writing, and that's how a lot of their ideas for their stories were shared and refined, and they encouraged each other in their writing and things like that. So I had this off of another dust cover, a book about C.S. Lewis and imagination, and so I decided to give it a little home here in the book. On this page, I took this picture that I found inspiring, and I added this little fish that I sort of was playing around with baby wipes and how when you wipe up your inks and things like that, sometimes it leaves really pretty colors on the baby wipes, and I've noticed that some artists use those in their journals. So I looked at this one and saw kind of a fish shape. So I created that. And I thought when I added this, I felt like the fish was related to, it's like a symbol for me of intuition or your thoughts. And since this quote is about intuition as well, I decided to put the fish there. But I also enjoyed creating this frame as well because I was trying to match the green from the scrapbook paper on this side. This picture, some pictures I left intact in the book because I just really enjoyed them. I love collecting rocks at times. Sometimes I collect too many, but this reminds me of some of the rocks that I've collected or seen in the different national parks where I've worked. And I just added this little strip of black and white photos or sepia photos, and it's just various landscapes. And I have like a collage sheet that had little thumbnails like this that you could use in your journaling. So I really loved that, and I wanted to give it a home there. And then on this side, I added some paint and just covered over the title page here where it said workspaces. And a lot of my techniques with that, when I'm just wanting to get loose and messy in the art journal, is I'll just scrape the paint around on the page with like a credit card or a gift card, something like that, like an old one. And then when I do that, sometimes I see little shapes and things within the paint. So I use that technique also if I just want to start on a painting, and I just look for the images within the scraped areas. So here I kind of see like a figure It almost seems like their heart is coming out of their chest. And this figure kind of feels more masculine to me. And if I really study this, I probably could see more things. But I also was just trying to pick up some of the colors that I enjoyed on this side of the page too. And then I added another quote here, again about curiosity and exploration. I don't want to read all the quotes because that would take all day, but if you're curious, I could probably link you to some of those. And then on this side, because this again was a picture from the book, and I just love this collection of old padlocks with a little burlap covered bulletin boards and things like that. So I left this intact just because I like that as an idea too, just visually that's appealing to me. But then I added a quote here, and I just covered up a bit with white paint, and I used a micron pen, and then I think a gray pip pen to create just this lettering on this side. But it says, "There are no walls, no bolts, no locks that anyone can put on your mind." And that was from Otto Frank, who was Anne Frank's father. And he survived Auschwitz, but of course we know that Anne Frank did not. So that was a really powerful quote. And if I'm not mistaken, I might have written that quote around the same time as Holocaust Remembrance Day, but I'm not sure because I did this a few years ago. Okay, so then fast forward probably a year or so later, I pulled this sketchbook back out of storage, and these are some pages that I did during lockdown, actually, in the spring of 2020. And on this page, it's fairly light and energetic, and I was exploring some happy feelings, a little bit like protecting my inner child. She's sort of like peeking out of this little cardboard fort, so it was like a little safe space. And at this time, I was working through some emotional healing exercises, and I just really dove into that since I had the time. And, so in the daytime, I would work on my art journal and some of these things. And then in the afternoon or the evening, I would go for walks and explore different landscapes around Utah, where I was living at the time. And then I added a little quote here, and it just created this little flip through, or what do you call them, a tip in, just so you could lift that up and look underneath. On this side, I was using a bit of collage, and there was this really interesting image of this lady, and she was standing in front of this really intricate door. You can barely see elements of that peeking out. But as I started painting this, then it became like another exercise of looking in the paint and seeing what I could see. So there's bunnies, and there's kind of this knife shape. And so this page, you could say, was dealing with a little more heavier themes. But at the same time, I was processing a lot of things at the time. And the knife actually represented this. It kept appearing over and over again in my work, and it was like I was cutting away things that I was dealing with. And if you look on this side, you'll see a paintbrush that also, it just depends on which way you look at it, but the knife blade is part of that paintbrush. And again, through the practice of art, I was dealing with a lot of different things and letting go of some stuff. And so it was really an amazing experience. And then I have a quote here about vision. I used one of those whiteout, I don't know what they're called. They're like a dispenser, and they create like the strip to cover over something. But I used it. I've seen other people do this as well, but you just use it to write on in your journal. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things happening here. This is a page that began with just some magazine images, and it was like a patchwork of images. You can see the tulips here, which is from a vintage illustration. There's a picture here of a man riding on an elephant for a festival. This is a picture, I think, from a mosque. And there's just all sorts of things happening in this picture. But then I went over it with some paint, and then ultimately I used some charcoal with clear gesso. And as I worked with this, I started seeing elephants within kind of what I was doing. And I was probably influenced by this elephant here. So this page is actually unfinished. My intention is to go back in and bring out the detail in some of these elephants. This month I'm working on a challenge on my own. I haven't really been posting much of it. And a few people have seen it and have decided to also do some work, but it's called hashtag Finish Up February. So this is one of those pages that I want to come back in this month and work on. And because of the tulips and things, as I'm looking at this, I'm getting a feel that maybe I'll do this on Valentine's Day. Because there's something, I don't know, maybe it's the romance of the colors and some of the things I see, but I think that might be appropriate. This page, there's nothing happening on it right now. I do like this image here though, and I tend to do things like this with old vintage wooden trays and things. So this really appeals to me. I'll probably keep this picture and maybe put a quote or something here, journaling. This page I'll probably do something with eventually. Now throughout this book, because this is, I've been adding things to the pages and making it a bit bulky, I have added some tape and things. And I have an approach where I'm just really messy with it, and I'll put like one strip down and then I'll put little extra pieces that reinforce, but then if I go back in with paint or collage or something, it just becomes like this, again, more texture for me. Some people also cover this over with gesso, which is another option. So then I sort of shifted. Oh, I've missed a page. Let's go back. Okay, so this page was actually done before these lockdown art pieces. And this was done shortly before I moved. This was, well, no, this was actually done the first year that I started working in this. So this might have been like 2018. And this was shortly before I was moving, obviously. And I was just trying to feel like what that season was going to be like. And this is when we moved to Bryce Canyon. Okay, this was 2019, I'm sorry. So that's when I started this sketchbook. So what I did is this had some really interesting images already on it, and I allowed those to peek through. And I did that like a negative painting technique where you allow certain shapes to allow whatever is underneath to be visible. And then I created like these block letters. And then again, around the edges, I just started looking for things within the paint, and it just felt like it was showing me like the next step as far as moving ahead. I realize now that this was a table of contents, because some of these pictures here you will see throughout the book. So this must have been a table of contents page, and I just covered over everything except for some of these pictures underneath. So there's a little swan here that's sort of in a cube. This lady is pointing forward, that sense of moving. There's a bird here. There's two birds here actually. And then this figure who's kind of like half woman, half bird, and they're flying towards their destination. And there's lots of little things throughout here. I won't go into all the meanings and things. There's like a lemon slice, which for me has to do with having more zest in life. And this page is something I feel like I could probably go in and add more depth to it and more contrast, but You know, I'm fine with how it is for that time period that I made it. So moving on, when I got this book again, I brought it out a few months ago, and I started using it almost like a glue book. So I would glue down paper, like this is coffee and tea dyed paper, or I would cut out things from magazines and put together a collage. So I would try to do it very quickly, and that's one of the expressive arts practices that I do often. Some of this I also learned through Shelley Clammer of Expressive Arts Workshops. And it's basically where you create a collage and it kind of expresses your feelings that day. And then you pick like one or two words that you're sensing and you just sort of pick them from the magazine. So this day, the message was reverberate joy. I took this advertisement that had like a watery background, and as I tore the paper, I saw this almost like a face, like a head and like part of the shoulders. And so I glued that in there. And that sort of, the watery part of it expresses to me emotions and kind of diving deep into my intuition. And then over here, there was a picture of a lady with her dog where she's kind of in a bohemian kind of style. And I journaled on this side what I was feeling that day. This particular day, I was babysitting my friend's dog, or dog sitting, I should say. And so I wrote about our walk and the things that we saw on the trail and things like that. And it was just sort of a day to relax. Then here's another spread that I did. The background, instead of using paint, I used, again, the coffee dyed paper. So I would just take little strips of it and tear it and then glue it down. And I left this word here. I like this image of the slides, and then I left the words provide light because I really like that. And then I added this image of this lady running through the field. This was back in the summer, so it was very, I had those summer feelings. I was outdoors a lot. And then over here, I like this image I just kept this because I liked both sides of it, and I liked her running through the mud puddles and things. And then I added a little strip of the tea dyed paper here and just glued that in. Then on this side, I really love this composition and this lady's expression, and I just added the word sacred pause. These are some of my favorite colors, like the teals and kind of like coral reds and things like that. And so I think that drew me in, kind of the different blue colors as well. And then over here, I left the image of the workspace because I liked how there was a piece of plexiglass over the surface here, so you could kind of work. You had a big surface to work at, but then you could see things underneath. And that's an idea that I would actually like to do. And I also kept this side just because I also like this lady on the beach and kind of that bright yellow colors. So then some of my images started getting a little bit more complicated, and I was exploring some things, I guess, within my own psyche. This one I was dealing with some of my thoughts. So there's a lot of stairs, it seems like this whole, this is a real photo or page, from the book, but then I added this little light here and a little paper airplane type thing, this little fish aquarium. And I wrote on there that my thoughts are giving me their undivided attention, because if you look here, it looks like all the fish are on this one side of the fish bowl, and they're kind of looking up at this lady walking down the stairs. And that kind of I felt connected to her. She had a new perspective. This felt almost like a telescope, kind of the lens of it. There's some spiral stairs. So this all kind of feels like things happening in my own mind, you could say. And then I used the words new latitude. On this side, I just love the rustic nature of this, and the freedom of solitude was what I was hearing that day. And then this says, give your space the freedom it needs. If you hear my cats in the background, they're in the bedroom because they were playing with the cords. So it was kind of hard to record my video. So they've only been in there for probably 10 minutes, but I might try to let them out and see how they behave. And then this was something from a piece of architecture, and it just looked like, it just reminded me of like building new things, kind of like over here, there's like this architecture, and that's the way I kind of felt at the time. Like I was exploring new thoughts, and it was almost like they were coming in like a wind through the window. And then I was just sitting in this chair of solitude. This image, I did not, when I put this in my glue book, I had intended on putting the artist's name, and somehow, I don't know if my, when I cut it or something, it messed up the artist's name, and then I didn't get a chance to write it down. But this was in a fashion magazine, and I really love this image, and again, the composition, the boldness of this lady, and also the orange that she's wearing. And I chose the word sacred presence because I felt like this lady, the way this picture is, she's filling that whole canvas, and she's taking up space, and it's like she's very bold. And if you see here, she's also holding a cross necklace. So I think that might have played into that idea of sacredness as well. And then over on this side, this one's kind of a more funnier type of image. I kept the image here of the storage idea where you use suitcases. But what I did is created this foreground by adding some things that look like suitcases. Like this was, I think, a handbag. And then I don't remember where I got this one at. But I think, oh yeah, it was an advertisement and had this cat peeking out of the suitcase. So I kind of made extra dimension to this scene, like this is part of that scene. And then I added this little book here also just to pick up the color, so your eye kind of flows a little bit better into that image. And these were created on July 19th, and I was exploring some ideas where I was thinking about retirement and different things, and what that would look like as far as savings, and everything just felt really overwhelming. And then I used the words ready for blast off because this was during the time when different billionaires were talking about, blasting off into space, and there was all these different launches and things, and I think it was Bezos and different ones that kind of went up into space. But I was sort of exploring some of my own concerns, and then some things I was seeing in society. And it's almost like we're given these pills to swallow coming from different directions. I was also thinking about the pandemic, things like that. Oh, I said it's a pretty pill that's hard to swallow, the illusion of security and freedom. So this was kind of more of a deep, almost you could say a little bit more political type of collage. And I found these pills from another illustration in a magazine, and then I created my own as well. A few of these I created myself. Then on this side, I believe I did these the same day. Yes. So this one I was exploring all of my, the heaviness and the fears. And then after I did that, I felt good, because I was clearing some of that away. And then I was able to focus on joy and being relaxed and grounded and mindful and things like that. So on this one, I used this this advertisement of jewelry. I just liked that image and some of the textures happening. And then I went back in with different textures and gardens and different, this is a little stream. flowers, things like that. And this brought a lot of joy to me. And then I went back in with just a white Jelly Roll pen and added some details. This page, this was from July 27th of last year. I was exploring some things, and this was also the time we were fostering kittens, which we later adopted. Those are the ones you're hearing you're hearing in the background earlier. Sounds like they're probably playing now, so maybe they're calmed down a bit. And so I was just exploring the new things happening. On this side, I took a list that is called tolerations. And I don't really want to get into this too much, but basically, this is something you might learn in coaching or something like that, where if you have unfinished tasks, or you have relationships that are draining you, or if you have repairs in your home that are being neglected, or areas that are just unorganized, that kind of puts a drain on your whole life, and it's like little things. It creates this mental clutter. So the object of this was to write down all the tolerations I could think of, which ended up being 51 things. I think the lesson was like to do 50, but I added an extra one. And then what I did is I marked off a few that I actually figured out. Later, I took this list and I put it in a digital form so that I could create checklists and things. I have a program, a lot of people use it in office settings, but it's called Trello, and it's meant for productivity. So I took a lot of these things and created a checklist for each one, and I've been trying to figure out how to make these things happen. This one, I was exploring career and also being fearless. And this is almost like, it's kind of like my adult self is looking at maybe a younger version of myself and recognizing how those, what I know now and what and also capturing some of that wonder of youth and trying to bring that together. So I added this lady to this scene who's working. And then on here, I put a little book and I wrote the word dream work on it. I just glued that on. And this is kind of like a perspective, and I like all the airiness of it, and it feels very light. And then the things that it seems like she's just laying on the floor working on this, like you would do as a child. She has some pillows that I made for her, things like that. On this side, I kept part of the image that was here just because I liked the color combination. And then I added this image of this lady, and she's wearing like a chartreuse color dress and these beautiful fringes. And I just liked how it's like she's just coming out of this area in this kind of this bold way. And I put the word unexpected flourishes. I kept this image. Again, I think I just like looking at the organized desks ideas. And then over here, I cut this out of I ripped this out of a magazine where they asked these questions about mental health. And I just thought that would be a fun activity to do sometime. I love this image of the ladder. I know people use the ladders sometimes in spaces for displaying towels or quilts and things like that. But I just love this technique for using it you make a bulletin board and these little strings that you can tuck things in. I just really like that. This side, I will probably add some paper or paint eventually, and then add some decorations to that. This is when we adopted our 2 kittens, and I found these images from an animal catalog, not a catalog, a magazine. I think it was for an animal sanctuary. And because we're working at a rescue ranch right now for animals, I decided that was very fitting. And I put a little mustache on this cat because that's what our cat looks like. It's a tuxedo, but it has the little Charlie Chaplin mustache. And then here, this little kitten reminded me of our cat Jonah, the little tabby. And then I wrote some feelings about, feeling warm and fuzzy, about the fact that we adopted them. Over here, this is a painting by Carol Marine. She does a lot of daily paintings as part of her practice. And I really like the colors in this again. It's also a reminder to do a daily creative practice. This is the same artist, different image, but I wanted to keep both sides of that. That was just for inspiration. Over here, I will probably go back in and add some more journaling, maybe cover that over with something else. This page, again, you can see how this side is very cluttered and busy. It's very similar to when I was showing the blast off page, where there's a lot going on in my head. And then what happens is I work through those issues on one side, and then on this side, it's almost like an affirmation. I was feeling insecure about some things. I was trying to make some decisions. Then over here, I'm trying to remind myself that I do have vision and I am able to do things. And it's kind of like that sense of life and things like that. I was also exploring areas of my life that feel like they're asleep right now, and maybe the vision is dormant, but I'm trying to bring that about. This one, I kept this image here of the desk, but then I added this image of this lady looking over the ocean, and it says, "Imagine your perfect day," is what I was sensing. And then I found these words, script rewritten, that kind of felt connected to this office scene, but also some life changes I'm trying to make. Over here, this one was exploring body image, but it's a really fun, colorful image. Again, it's using a lot of those orange colors. This is a painting by Monet in the background that I saw on the Artist magazine. It was on the cover, and this paper is very lovely texture to it. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but I love when I find that on magazines. And then I added this orange slice, and then this lady here, and then the words "perfect as I am," and then I added a lot of doodling to this one. This one, again, there's a pattern here, it seems like. I was dealing with the feelings of overwhelm and scheduling and things that didn't seem to be working out in the time frame that I wanted. And then over here, I was exploring fruitfulness and letting things go. And so this felt more affirming, and this one felt more like just letting some of that stuff, that I was dealing with out on the page. And this image of the bedroom here I kept, that was in the book, and I just added a few things to that. This one, I added this image. I think this is from an Elle Decor magazine. And I just played around with the patterns. And this was from October 23rd, 2021. I really enjoyed adding the doodles as well. And because the paper was glossy, it didn't seem like the ink wanted to it almost wanted to bubble up a little bit, but I don't mind that. It's on there now, but that was just the nature of it. And then over here, I like this scene, again, I found in the Decorating magazine, and I chose this quote here by Nicole Kidman, and she says, "I have my work, I have my family, I have my own inner landscape that I explore. I choose that more than I choose partying," and I kind of connected to that just because I'm an introvert. So, and also a lot of my work is about exploring the inner landscape. And she also said, "I've always felt things really deeply," so I put that in there too. And the words "deep introspection." Sorry, I'm out of frame there. This one, I left the picture of the mouse. Again, this book was from several years ago, And then the words step outside and plein air. And I put this painting out that someone was painting outdoors. I wrote down a few things that were on my mind. Again, this is a little bit more planning, a little bit more mind clutter or brain dumping. And then over here is a little bit less going on. And I wrote down each day is a new beginning. This again was an image from the book. I added these art images from Artist Magazine. And I was talking about my creativity. This one, I just love these books in the Sherlock Holmes adventures. And I'll probably just put something right here, like a little quote, and just leave that whole image as it is. This one I love just by itself as well. I'll probably just keep it as it is. All these prints that are hanging up in the sunny window. This one, I added this lady in this peach dress, and she's just throwing these pages on the floor, on the couch. I added some little flowers to it. This dress reminds me of a Barbie that I had like when I was younger, that was like Peaches and Cream Barbie. The dress was very similar to that. This one I did fairly recently. This was back in January. And I took this out of Art Magazine because I really love the scene. And I highlighted embracing creativity, and then also that creativity represents part of our most basic drive as human beings. And then over here, I love this image of this lady with all these artistic clothes on, kind of upcycled, very rugged and rustic. And there's a part of me that I actually like stuff like that. And I like things that are worn and old. And I feel like if I wore that outfit, I would just probably look like a bum though. But I think she pulls it off. But anyway, there's some inspiration there. I like the colors too. And then this one, I just glued half of her on there. I kept the studio that was in the book. And there's all these tools that are hanging up that I really liked. And I have the words, say hello to the new. I added a abstract painting by Nicholas Wilton, who a lot of you probably know if you're in the mixed media or painting world. And his work is in Park City at this gallery. So I'm thinking about seeing if the work is still there, and I might go check it out. And I just used a paper clip. I did some, this I used as a visionary art journaling technique. And so I wrote about that on here. And again, that was something that I learned through Shelley Clammer. This one I just did a couple days ago. I used some art paper that was very messy. I'll show you a couple pieces. These are things where I took some yarn and I pressed it down on the paper. I think I pressed something on top of it to create that those shapes. So I took a piece of that, and maybe not from this one. There's another one I think I tore it from, and then I put that right there. Not sure if I have. So on here I just added some more inks. I added the words move beyond your expectations and these flowers. And I was also dealing with some chaos. Again, here's the theme. I never really paid attention to this, I don't think, when I'm creating. But yeah, this is a chaos page and this is the peaceful page. So this again was from another gallery in Park City, which is very close to where we live. And I really loved this image. It felt very calm and soothing. And this painting is called A Place to Rest. And it felt like I was dealing with a lot of chaos. And instead, I want to kind of find that peaceful place. Then I took some of my coffee dyed paper again and glued that down. I left the word clears the way because that was speaking to me. And that was a big quote from the book. And then I did a technique that this has been around for, I don't know, probably 30 years, where you do, connect with your inner child. And so you draw a figure with your non-dominant hand and sort of have a conversation. So I did that, and then I wrote about my conflicting emotions that I was dealing with over here. That same day, because I was feeling, I think this was all from the same day. So I did that, and then later on, I came in and started scraping paint and just getting messy because I needed to. Or it might have been the next day, I'm not sure. And then I added this image, it had the word intuitive. And I just like this lady's expression, because she kind of looks a little bit lost or out of it in a way, but or a little bit dreamy as well. And I was feeling all those things. And then I added in the paint some neo colors, and it almost looks like a big blue book. Books show up quite often in my intuitive art, and it kind of has to do with, I think, my study, my brain. I love to study, I love to research and gather knowledge. There's also a hand coming out of the book that I did in pencil, but this is a page I feel like I could go in and add a few more details to, but it's very loose and messy as well. On this side, I was dealing with some worries, and there's kind of this owl-shaped figure who's kind of half human, half owl, because that tends to be some of the things I do, and she's holding this nest full of eggs, and then there's a table in front of her with all these Post-it notes and things. She's trying to plan, which is what I was in, this planning phase, trying to decide what I want to do next. And I left the word options. This was on in the book, and I just left that open, but then I drew this image in there. And again, it's very rough, and it's almost done like in a folk art style. And then there's this hand kind of reaching up as well. But the base of this is just scraped paint. I just covered over stuff as quickly as possible, dried it, and then I added some details to it. So you can see the shift from just a glue book, like that's probably the end of just being a glue book for that phase of things. Then I start adding more textures. This is still kind of a glue book type deal. Then over here, I started scraping paint. And that's where I've been the past few days. This page is not complete, but I scraped over this second story office area. It was like a loft, and it had a bookshelf. And I saw this deer shape in there. Over here, I took my credit card and scrape the paint in this this type of design, but this also feels like a figure to me also. So I might go into this one and actually do some additional painting. Again, scraping more paint. It's almost like I'm creating bases for coming back in here and doing work later. I like this image of this girl holding the rose. And I left some of the photos visible that was in the book, the illustrations, because I don't have to cover over everything. And that way it almost creates like different levels of dimension too. And then today, this is what I did earlier before starting this flip through. This page is not complete. I will go in and do a little bit more to it, but I did again the scraping, and then and even before the paint completely dried, I used a combination of titanium white and Mars black, I believe. I just used some of my paints, did that, and then I took my medium and sort of added these magazine images very quickly, but in that way, the gray paint and the black paint, different things, kind of help these blend into the page, into the image, or into the background really. The words that's really standing out is self-compassion. I added a little bit too much paint on this side, and I'm thinking about going in and actually bringing her facial features back out in this part, because I really don't want to lose that. And I like some of the life happening with some of these messy marks and things. But the main emphasis I was focusing on today was self-compassion. But I will explore this in another, probably another process video where I'll actually complete this. And that's it. The rest of this, you can just see a quick flip through of what the pages look like. You can see also where I've ripped things out, because again, I can't leave everything or this would be too bulky. And I may have to take out more pages as well. But there's plenty pages here to work with. These are kind of like at a lakeside or a seaside cottage. The kitchen. Display ideas. I've done this actual idea before. I love this. This page I'll keep the way it is. And actually, I just really like the studio space in general. I like how there's this big table in the middle, but there's all this storage. Oops. But yeah, you can get a feel for what the book looked like before I started collaging and stuff. And you know, some people might get upset that, you know, when you do things like that, but you know, for me, this book was either, it was probably just going to be donated again, but I decided, hey, I really like the, you know how you just connect to the energy of a book sometimes? It was sort I just like the images, they inspire me. And even if I cover them over, I enjoyed this book for several years before I collaged in it. So there's another one of those end papers, just very beautiful. And that's the end. So keep a lookout for some process videos where I will finish up certain pages. I might do some fresh new ones. This is definitely one to finish. The one I showed you, this one. These are in progress. So yeah. So sorry for the wobble there. But yeah, thank you for joining me, and I hope you were inspired, and maybe let me know in the comments what your favorite page was, or maybe technique, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.